Hey everybody, how's it going? We are here with a timeless reading. The first card that we have out is King of Swords. The second card that we have out is Nine of Wands. All right, King of Swords, Nine of Wands. You can be feeling sort of fatigued here. When we have King of Swords and Nine of Wands, you can feel like there's a challenge that's being posed to you when it comes to your throat chakra. So it can be thinking, it can be communicating, it can be problem solving, it can be decision making. I feel like that about covers it. Like expressing yourself. Yeah, for now. I think that about covers it. What I want to say, what this means, when I see the Nine of Wands, like usually I see that as what is the challenge for us, like what you can feel like you're sort of being tested by a bit. When I say tested, I mean like what is the challenge sort of here. When King of Swords is here, this means like you have to figure something out. This can mean you need to say something, you need to call something out. It can be you asserting yourself in some way or initiating something. Like maybe it's something's going on at work and you feel like you need to have a conversation with your boss. This can be initiating that conversation with your boss. So it's going to be something like that. Or like something is going on that feels kind of puzzling and you're going to have to problem solve, but you can feel like it's a tough problem to try to figure out. It's a tough problem to try to solve. And it can also be really saying what you're thinking, saying how you're feeling, expressing yourself. What I'm seeing come in your direction is actually the Ace of Cups. But what this can mean is that like you have a bit of a wall up. Having you come out as King of Swords shows you being very capable of expressing yourself, but having this there, you can have a bit of a wall up. So that Ace of Cups is coming through, like wanting to connect with you. But right now, this can be like maybe you have a bunch of stuff going on and you're not totally available. Whatever it is, there can just be something that's sort of blocking connection from happening right now. But there can be expression or communication needed on your end or participation. Yeah, I actually feel like somebody wants to connect with you here. I feel like these visuals are just very clear. So this is you over here. This is like a bit of a wall, a bit of a block, or something that is, yeah, I feel like the Nine of Wands can take shape in a lot of ways. Like there are lots of different reasons why something can be in between you and what's on the other side of this. So just know that this isn't like, it's not always like you being in this position of, I want to have walls up. This can be like, I have a lot going on right now, and so I haven't said anything. It can be something like that that's going on. Like something that's challenging that you're dealing with that can sort of block outside influence from coming through. Now, having your energy be here, or you can also be the Queen of Cups in this instance. Somebody is coming through, a Queen of Cups is coming through and saying, hey, do you want to have the Ace of Cups with me? But Queen of Cups can't get through because something going on with you is blocking that from happening. So Queen of Cups is here, Queen of Cups is showing up, and Queen of Cups is extending this. Like, see this hand? Like, hey, I'm offering this to you. I'm saying, do you want to connect with me? And it feels like something still hasn't happened over here. Let's talk about archetypes. Queen of Cups is going to be somebody that is more, at least in the current energy here of the reading, the archetype of the Queen of Cups is going to be somebody that's more emotionally motivated, more motivated based off of like, I want to connect, I want to tune in, I want to feel, I want there to be like love or something going on here, or I'm trying to experience this intimacy with you. King of Swords can be being in more of a mental space and more of an intellectual space, being in more of a cerebral space. And so there can be a little bit of a clash here, because Queen of Cups can look at King of Swords and say, like, sometimes I'm trying to communicate based off of how I feel and what's going on a, like, my impression and what I'm experiencing. And King of Swords can be based off of something that's maybe more literal at times. And King of Swords can also be that energy of like, hey, I'm in the middle of working on this thing, and maybe Queen of Cups is just like somebody coming in saying, hey, I also want to connect with you, or I want to have this intimacy with you. And King of Swords can be like, not right now, I'm working on this thing. So it can be kind of like that's happening. And you can also see yourself as being on both sides of this. Like, maybe there's somebody that you want to connect with and you feel like they're not always in the most emotionally open place. And then for others of you, maybe at times you have stuff where like you're trying to get work done, or you're trying to have a conversation and you feel like somebody's wanting to connect with you on an emotionally intimate level, but you feel like you need communication to be happening first before that happens. I want to clarify, what is the point of this energy? What is this energy trying to do here? What is the function of the Seven of Swords? Some type of resistance to looking at something that needs to be peeled. The layers need to be peeled back on this. That's what the block is connected with. That's what the wall is connected with. Feels like even something that would potentially like want to be like infringing or trespassing. I kind of get the feeling. So we have the world here, which is connected with lessons that we've learned, and having the world can also be connected with sort of big new chapters, new beginnings. And I feel like this has to do with, on an emotional level, maybe things that we have been through, things that we have explored, discernment that we have learned to apply at times. Now, having Seven of Swords come out directly after having the world here, there can be something that feels like it's off to a little bit of a shaky start. And then having the sun come out, feels more than anything like mindsets being exposed here. Can be old patterns and habits that are being exposed too. Stuff that's going on intuitively, emotionally being exposed. I think that the only reason I feel like slightly thrown off here is that if I were just looking at the pictures on the cards, it almost feels a little bit like the energy that's coming from the Queen of Cups towards the King of Swords looks like there's some type of unspoken agenda here that King of Swords may not totally be aware of. So Queen of Cups looks like they have some sort of agenda in saying like, hey, I'm trying to connect with you, and there's something going on here that feels like it hasn't been completely exposed. And I feel like King of Swords is seeing that and feeling that and tuning into that, because King of Swords is making direct eye contact with this Seven of Swords over here. So this feels like some type of agenda that it feels almost like a Trojan horse a little bit with the Ace of Cups. Like, hey, I'm just trying to connect with you, but there being like a bit of a motive that hasn't been spoken about. I want to get another card out here first to see. This can be a lack of self-awareness about something too, having the Seven of Swords be here. But I do feel like what this is, it's going to be exposed, and that's sort of what this chapter is about, so that things can move forward. Because if that's the main topic, if we're starting this chapter and immediately within this chapter, Seven of Swords is there, it's going to be a really key piece to the beginning of this. And Seven of Swords is like anything that hasn't been exposed, that light has not been brought to this. Seven of Swords can be seen as a shadow energy, but then I'm seeing the sun be right after. So I do feel like light is being brought to this. It goes from something where there's like not an awareness to then being an awareness of that, this not being seen, to then the sun illuminating that, so there can finally be a moving forward. I want to see again about what the function of this was. I want to use this deck. What was the function of this? I feel like this is about like wanting intimacy, but going about it in a way that may actually like spoil it a bit here. Because I'm asking what the function is of the Seven of Swords. And so this can be like, by going about something in not the most direct, transparent, truthful, honest way, what is it hoping to accomplish? And we see the Ace of Cups, and this is like just wanting to connect, but going about it in a way that lacks transparency, and there needs to be full transparency for Ace of Cups to be viable. And Seven of Swords can be like a not being totally transparent because of wanting to like manipulate something into happening, and then that spoils sort of the integrity of the chapter. Because I'm also seeing High Priestess on the bottom of the deck here, and I feel like there's a knowing about what this is. And there can be more self-awareness that's gained through this too. Like, this can also be shying away from being totally honest with oneself. This can be shying away from intimacy in general with oneself, and then also would mean that it's being pushed away when it comes to other people as well. So like, let's say that you're the one that's the King of Swords here. Like, maybe you have somebody coming through trying to connect with you. If this Seven of Swords is your energy, it can be all of the ways that you try to keep intimacy away from you because of not wanting to see those parts of yourself. And then it also keeps those connections away on a deeper level. That doesn't mean that you can't have relationships and stuff, but it can mean that there's a, like, I'm not going to invest in a connection that's going to then grow into something that I'd feel happy with because of having to be like totally exposed in order to do that, like totally vulnerable in order to do that, in a place of honesty in order to do that. There can be something here about not wanting to be totally seen too. Because I feel like more than anything, this can be about seeing what hasn't been being seen. And out of all the cards that it's difficult to see from a place of awareness, it's going to be Seven of Swords and it's going to be Hanged Man. Those are the two cards that I feel like it's easiest to get caught up in the cloudiness, and then beyond it just being cloudy, it sort of puts a different image there. So you almost think it's one thing, but then it's something else that's going on. Like Seven of Swords is that part of us that convinces us like this is the way to do something and that you'll be better off doing it, even though you have this feeling like maybe this isn't the way to do it, and something being a little bit off when we have that Seven of Swords there. It's like we haven't gotten to that place of learning how to face something yet. But then ultimately it can keep us away from that honest self-expression too, and doesn't allow us to move forward. But at the same time, I feel like what's really happening here is that this is a marrying that's going to happen between like the intellect and the heart. Because if you see King of Swords and Queen of Cups as your own energies, it's like maybe your intellect keeps your heart in like a separate chamber, so they're not connected. So sometimes you make choices based off of your intellect. Sometimes you make choices based off of your heart. For some of you, this can mean sometimes I only make choices based off of my intellect, and then as soon as I start feeling things, I shut that down completely. So that doesn't have any voice when it comes to the choices that I'm making. But then I feel like a bit disconnected emotionally or from the experience of like really feeling into things, because I've put so much weight on feeling like my brain is really the only thing that matters and logic is the only thing that matters, and then there's not heart in the choices that I'm making. So there can be like something of that nature that's going on here. And this can be a lesson that's being learned. Like we have Saturn here and we have the Sun, which can really have like a blunted affect, I think, really. Like the Sun wants to be expressing itself. When Saturn is there, it can be this stuff that sort of doesn't allow that to happen or diminishes that in some way or minimizes that in some way. So like the shine can't happen, so the expression can't happen, so the soul isn't fully expressing itself. But at the same time, when it comes to Saturn, there's stuff here that it teaches us about maturing and about going through difficult circumstances in order to find ourselves as well, and perseverance and resilience, and I think hard truths too, that we come to a space of understanding and learning about the struggles that we go through. And it can be what we have most difficulty with as well throughout our experience. So this can be times when true self-expression hasn't been at the forefront and something else has. So this can mean like just expressing oneself from a logical standpoint and then not really exposing how one feels about things, and that can be part of this. Aw. This comes from a place of self-protection, of not wanting to get hopes up and be disappointed. Seven of Swords always comes from somewhere. It's not like we purposely want to ruin things or not be self-aware or whatever. There's always a motivation. So it seems very much like the motivation of the Seven of Swords is to sort of keep one safe so they feel like I can deal with whatever this is that's going on, because I'm not fully 100% within that, but simultaneously feels like the disappointment of like ruined that thing or don't have a chance with that now. It feels kind of like from that point. But it can be a way that we do things that feels very like I didn't realize what was happening necessarily in that moment. Like I wasn't in that place to recognize, and then you get the outcome and you're like, oh, it happened again. It feels kind of like that. And having to get to that place with yourself of sort of unpacking this a bit here. And say, what do I want in my life? The strength that you gain moving through this. Like, I'm seeing confidence be gained. I'm seeing... I feel like it goes from a very black and white energy of it's either like over the top, maybe feeling wise, and then over the top, like too intellectual, and there's not an integration of anything else, to then there's an incorporation of like me investing in things that are important to me. That's something that's on my list, and it's something that like values are incorporated into that. And then there's also this moving into a place of confidence, moving into a place of self-trust. That's happening too. Recognizing like if you want connection in your life, I'm seeing this Ace of Cups be available. So that means that a new chapter is here and it's viable. The sun being there, this feels like something really happy. This feels like something really warm. And then the Emperor being here sort of implies that this is something that can be a more long-term building block. And one on a level of connection. That is what this is tuned into. I think also too that there can be stuff about like betrayal that's connected with this, and moving through some difficult situations that have happened. There can be a like I've been hurt before, and so I keep things at arm's length so I don't let it in, so nobody can fool me again, or nobody can hurt me again, nobody can betray me again. And I think also too understanding the deeper, I think, notion of this, because when we have Seven of Swords, I think it's really easy to read the card as like somebody has some weird intention and they're going to come through and they're going to try to mess with me, or they're lying to me, or they're going to betray me. And I think when we get deeper, we can understand this as times when we've abandoned ourselves. And even though like I'm not saying like it was maybe right what was happening on the other end of things, simultaneously, if you were not abandoning yourself, would that have happened? And so there can be a coming to a place of recognizing that you have more power than maybe you thought, like you have more authority than maybe you thought initially, and that there is strength and value within your intuition and what you're feeling, and that maybe this is also a place where you can realize that there are different ways that you can move through things, and that it doesn't necessarily have to be that same situation. Like you can let love in, and it's not just going to lead to something happening here that you don't want, and you being completely unaware of that. That there has to be some sort of element of self-deception if somebody is able to deceive, because we always have those little alarms that go off if something like that is happening. But when we're not in a place of full truth with ourselves, it's much easier to not be able to tell what's going on. And I think seeing that it doesn't need to be the same story every time, and understanding how things happen in the way that they do, it can help you feel confident moving into the next cycle, not just believing that the same thing is going to happen because you don't understand what happened before, because it still doesn't make sense. And I think too that this can be like a byproduct of trying to avoid getting hurt again, avoid being disappointed again, avoid I wanted this to happen, but that was happening as well. Because I actually feel like if you get down to the bottom of this, like at least in this type of cycle, the type of betrayal that was experienced in the past feels like it came from you having certain expectations when it was sort of brought to your attention that what you wanted as far as what you were seeing in that other person wasn't actually them. There was a resistance to accepting that, and then it can be like bigger things that happen. And that's when there is that abandoning your intuition, abandoning your discernment, abandoning yourself, and then feeling like any type of connection is going to do that, and then writing it off completely. This feels like I'm learning how to use my discernment. I'm learning how to stay in a clear place within my throat chakra, which allows you to know when you're getting the truth, when you're not getting the truth, because you're in a place of truth with yourself. If you're not, and you're like, I want to believe this because that's what I want, even though I'm being shown something differently, that's when the deception is able to keep going. So there's that part of things. Then there's the emotional component of that, of you using your discernment when you get attached to an idea or a concept or a projection of what you want something to be. How we can just abandon everything and move in that direction, even though we are kind of leading ourselves astray. And then King of Pentacles can be that part of like, oh, I put in all of this energy, I might as well keep going, like how bad could it be? And then something surprising happens. And then how all of this ends up impacting, I think, like your self-image and your confidence and your self-trust, all of that. It's like, so seeing all of these things as being connected with one another. And all of the growing up that's happening in between, all of the maturing that's happening in between. Finding yourself through this. I feel like mainly this is about seeing where your blind spots were, actually. And seeing like where you had been twisting your mind, and even at times could have been like manipulating yourself because of, I think, really like not wanting to face the music and not wanting to face the truth at times. But I also feel too like now there's this streak of hope and moving forward that I'm seeing here. Because it feels like those blind spots, the awareness has been brought to that so there can be a moving forward rather than feeling like you're stuck. And also taking things in stride and confidently entering into things or accepting or agreeing with to participate in chapters that are presenting themselves to you. I think too that something big here is connected with learning how to go through times where you have expectations, where there are disappointments, and how to sort of like rebound and recover from that, and that being part of this too. It feels like in general that life stuff that happens and learning how to move through that. And then we end with the Six of Wands on the bottom of the deck. So I do feel like you're really finding your way through all of this. Like problem solving when it comes to your current stuff that you have going on. Figuring out how to take steps when steps are needed, even when it's difficult to do so. There is a gaining more of a sense of familiarity when it comes to what is compatible for you. Learning how to trust yourself, learning how to trust your feelings. Going through difficult chapters within relationships. Tapping into your resilience. I think also too, part of this is about finding other angles to look at things from, to get a bigger picture and to get maybe a more full and accurate picture as well. And to open up to adventure, to new experiences, to exploring, moving into a place where you allow yourself to become curious once again, being part of this. Recognizing the impact of the choices that you're making for your livelihood. Spending time reflecting so you can find answers. I feel like this can be a bit of the word paragraph is coming through. I feel like this can be a time where you can be reflecting on times when you've been disappointed, on times when you've been let down, on loss, grieving, those things. Like, it's a time when those things are coming up sort of to be reviewed, not to just sit within that and feel bad or to feel sad about that stuff, but more so because it looks like there's an intention of finding answers here when it comes to those experiences that you had. Like, what was I meant to gain from that? Like, why did that experience happen? What is that showing me? What is that telling me? What patterns can I recognize within that? It feels like again, like a review of these things. It can be difficult to review these things. At the same time, you can feel like there's a lot of wisdom to gain from those experiences as well. I get to this balance of feminine and masculine energy too, like the yin and yang, connecting with that. And I think trying to, like, maybe for some of you this is about gaining back your confidence or gaining back your self-trust or your willingness to go into situations even though you've experienced everything that you've experienced, and working with that part of yourself to sort of adjust and surrendering things and processing. This feels like all of the stuff that you've experienced that you haven't fully processed is being processed now too, and that being part of things. All right, my friends, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everyone for connecting. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.